Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and a welcome from me to Corpus Christi College, Oxford. My name is Chris Hack. My job is Director of Digital Innovation at Abingdon School. That's an independent school just down the road from here. I work day in, day out with students, teachers, parents around AI. It is my great pleasure to welcome, to speak to us all, Sir Anthony Selden this afternoon, and I'll give you just a quick introduction. He is a leading writer on AI and wrote presciently about AI. It was his book, The Fourth Education Revolution, well before AI and ChatGPT landed, that he put forward lots of interesting proposals on the hope and promise of AI. He is also a historian and author and biographer of prime ministers. He has been headmaster of Brighton College and Wellington School, Wellington College, two other independent schools, and his work there reverberated throughout the sector, and I know has influenced lots of independent schools as well. He is currently director of Wellington College Education, leading the global development and shaping the future of education around the world here in the 20th century through the networks he's building with a particular focus on AI. Hand over and let Sir Anthony share his thoughts with us. Thank you.
You can hear it now. So yeah, I mean, it's really lovely to be here, and thank you, Chris, for that introduction. I'm also the historian of Downing Street and the historian of the British Prime Minister, and set up AI in Education, which is the big body in the UK on AI, and trying to make certain that AI is introduced in the interests of learners and the way learning and that kind of interaction. And by the way, I'm also walking across Europe to the Ukraine front line for a series of books about how we can explore our common humanity and what it is that unites us as human beings rather than what divides us. And when so many of our leaders, almost all male, surprise, are trying so hard to divide us, what is it that actually quintessentially unites all people? Now, I'm going to do something Chris has bit. I just got back from speaking at the Eden. And so I did two things. I'm not going to do the second one there, which was which Chris got very alarmed, and I said I'd do in the talks. I was doing the two things, which was to get, and it came out of talking. I also set up a charity called Action for Happiness. It has 350,000 members. It's how we can help ourselves have more agency. Action for happiness. It's based on deepening resilience and deepening agency and efficacy. And so I was talking about 10 years ago to a group of so overly brainwired undergraduates and postgraduates about how they could be happy. And I said, okay, I mean, I just got exasperated after 30 minutes. And I said, I will make you guaranteed happier in 2 minutes. So they all look very skeptical. There were about 150 of them. And I said, hug the person on your left, and then hug the person on the right. And the energy in the room was utterly and totally transformed. Now, serious question, what is it that does, and what is it that we lack in our atomized lives, increasingly atomized, lonely lives, loneliness, third biggest killer in Europe. What is it about our lives, and why are we not willing to extend ourselves and to embrace others? physically and mentally. So I'm not going to do that exercise, Chris. You can relax. Thank goodness. But I'm gonna do this one. And so the biggest question for all of us, whether we are at Oxford or whether we are from Italy or wherever we are, as long as you're a human being, anybody not a human being here, okay, so if you are, is the biggest question we can ask ourselves is, what does it mean to be human in the age of AI? When AGI is just a few evenings away, and superintelligence, and when the things that we most prize, and in our system, as Chris, Chris is a genius, by the way. Chris is so special. I mean, he sent me notes for this. The most important talk is, how can we get AI deepening what education is about, so that it's not just about the passing of exams. Passing exams has no relationship to what it means to be educated. So someone just tell me, please, what does the word education mean? What's the derivation?
To lead out.
To lead out. So I regularly ask education ministers around the world, okay, I get the minister bit. What does the word education mean? And nobody knows, nobody can tell me. And the reason they can't tell me is for them it is just about the passing exams, because that's what they have done. And that's what they've done incredibly well. And they want to inflict that same very narrow model of memory and regurgitation. Everybody else, of course, exams, I mean, exams are important. I mean, exams are necessary, probably, but they're not sufficient. And we've made them both necessary and sufficient, and that has cheapened human beings. And in Britain, we have a third of young people who fail. And by the way, they're not the rich toffs. They're the people from the broken homes, from the difficult backgrounds, with learning difficulties. And we tell people who already found life hard that they failed at GCSE, which is the big exam you do at 16 in Britain, and they wear that stamp like a mark on their forehead the rest of their life. What we are told about ourselves becomes the reality. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, and you don't have to do this exercise, because some people find the idea of sitting still and breathing quite offensive. But if you want to, but don't if you want to. If you don't want to, you can just keep your eyes open and just glare at me, okay? But if you that's your choice. If you want to follow me, close your eyes. There's a purpose to this. So my eyes are closed, and just breathe in deeply and exhale deeply. And just notice how you're already beginning to relax and become aware of your heart rate. You're breathing in, becoming aware of your lungs, becoming aware of your body, your feet on the ground, becoming aware of the person in front of you and beside you, becoming aware of the sounds, the tastes, the smell, the touch. What we don't have is we don't have sight. But just see the image, imagine the room that you're in, and feel your heart again, and feel your emotions, and feel the love in your heart, and just let your heart expand, and let your mind expand. Let go of that left brain, overly taxed, cognitive, just become and become aware of your body, and just feel. This is what it means to be human. How many times today, keep breathing by the way, deeply but deeply, and out. How many times today have you been still? How many times today have you stopped? How many times today have you become metacognitively aware of yourself? Who's in charge of your life? Would your life be different if you were able to put more stillness into it, more humanity into it? So this is, open your eyes. I mean, this is, just notice, by the way, just notice, glares aside, notice if you just feel any different. The greatest question about AI is how can we use AI to deepen humanity and deepen the quality of education so it doesn't become something that you finish at 16 or 18 in whatever country. In 16, in this country, it's quite common for the young people to burn their physics file or their biology or their English folders and say, that's it for the rest of my life, learning, it's over. The notion of drawing out, leading out everything that's inside. And I'm going to be talking to you about how we can have an education system that finds what each and every child, including those children who have acute learning difficulties, acute physical and mental difficulties, including every child, can find something that they uniquely can do and that they uniquely can give the world, and then we'll have a very different society. So just this fact I'm going to tell you now, you all know. Who knows about the brains of London taxi drivers? Probably the same in Milan and Rome. Can someone just say what's happened? Their hippocampus is what? Expanded when they had to. In the UK, in Britain, there's this thing called the knowledge that London taxi drivers have, and it expanded the hippocampus, and now since they have sat-nav, what's happened? It started shrinking. Now, this is the point I want to make. We know that, okay? I'm assuming that you all know that, and I'm assuming that you all know about how sat-nav has reduced our sense of spatial awareness. For many young children, they have no, I mean, I was here at this university and I knew and loved every single street and I knew how to get around, I knew how it all related to each other. So many young people, how many of you have looked at a physical map in the last year, physical map, to get from A to B? Stop showing off. How many of you who have children or have friends with children, how many of them are using maps? There was something called the A to Z in London that we'd look at to get, no one's heard of the A to Z now. But the point, this is the point. You know, even my own children who, you know, have inquiring minds, they're doing public service jobs, they have no idea how villages and towns and cities work. They have no idea of the physicality of space. Now, the point I'm making is that collapse in spatial awareness, but please don't record this in case they see it, what I've said about them. Because it's real. But that collapse of our spatial awareness is happening to us in many, many other ways that we're not aware of. It's probably just the most graphic single example of the way that AI is collapsing us as human beings. Brain rot coming in. Okay. So the question is, and which Chris has asked me, I'll just quickly run over it. How can we use AI to deepen humanity rather than to hollow us out? And eventually, I'm going to ask this question. Who thinks by the end of this century, humanity will no longer exist? Hands up. Okay, some of you. Who thinks that human beings are the absolute apex of the life tree, all those diagrams we have where the human beings at the top? Because the AI doesn't think that. The AI thinks that we are just, we are just part of that evolutionary process. And whether by a hard zap or a soft zap, I can explain those if you want to, but you know what they are. AI will trump. I mean, we're just a necessary we're a necessary transitional right. What's Demis Hassabis said about AI compared to the Industrial Revolution? So someone describe who Demis Hassabis is. Demis Hassabis won the Nobel Prize. Google DeepMind was behind chess. Beating, who was it? Was it Spassky? Who was it? Kasparov? Who was it? Kasparov. At the end of the last century, the building of the AI to beat the world's #1 chess player. So he has said, and so he's a serious guy, won this Nobel Prize. He's not a, he's not a cheapskate writer just trying to say sensational things. He says AI is the biggest thing since the Industrial Revolution. And by the way, the Industrial Revolution was the biggest thing in the United Kingdom. He said it's 10 times bigger than the Industrial Revolution. And its rate of change is 10 times quicker. The only thing I think that's wrong about that is I think it's happening more than 10 times more quickly than the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so we're talking about something incredibly big, and education, as Chris and I talk about, is really, we're not on it yet. We haven't conquered it. So there are lots of good things that can happen for teachers. I'm just quickly going to go down this. It can help teachers in the preparation of lessons. It can help them in the organization of the classroom. It can help particularly young people, undergraduates and postgraduates with learning difficulties. It can help them to become more engaged. It can help with the setting and the marking of assignments with real-time formative assessment, and it can help with exams and reports. And at Chris's own school, tens of thousands of hours have been saved in report writing. So those are some of the teaching benefits, some of the learning benefits. It can help with memorizing. It can help with application of knowledge. It can certainly help with personalization of particular learning styles. It can help the students self-assess. It can help, obviously, with autonomous learning. But there are a lot of risks. Okay, so we'll get to those benefits. So a child in the furthest part of the UK or the furthest part of Italy. What's the furthest part of Italy? I don't know. I don't know what the first part of Italy is. Right the other side of Sardinia or something. And the furthest part of, the most remote part of the world can have extraordinarily exciting physics and maths and history and language lessons, personalized feedback. I mean, the potential is joyful and extraordinary. It can not give us that sense that education has a finishing point at 16 or 18 or 21, 22 when one finishes as an undergrad, whatever age that is, or postgrad, but it's something that goes on for life. Without exception, the best people I know in life are the people who are endlessly curious. And their curiosity is growing, and they're much more eager to find out what the person they're talking to knows than to tell you what they know. And yet so many people cannot wait to tell us what they know and give us the benefit of their opinions. Knowledge and humility and wisdom go side by side, and this technology can help in that process if we get it right. But there are enormous risks, and I'm just going to finish, I think, with the obvious risks of brain rot, of depersonalization. Yes, it can be fantastic, but how many of you here can tell us about the great relationship that you have with an AI agent teacher? How many of you had a great AI human teacher? Genuinely, hands up if you did. Did any of you have a great human teacher in any subject at any point in your life? Hands up if you did. Now, ask yourselves, if you put your hands up, what was it about them? Can we just take 3 examples? It was on, actually, just take.
Passion about the topic. So it was, I remember it was in high school, so around maybe 16. My maths and physics teacher, she was very passionate about the topics and how. Well,
How did it make you feel?
well, she transmitted that passion to me for maths.
Anybody else? Yep. So just handing this back a bit.
So I was in high school as well, and the teacher was an English teacher. So for me, I'm Italian, so it was foreign language, and she cared about us. She was also great in teaching, but she cared about us, and so I ended up here because of her. So.
And one more. Anybody? People at the back. You count two. Yeah, right. Up we go. Up we go. And we are going to go. Can you take that lady?
I was in school and I had a biology teacher, and she's a little old lady getting close to retirement, but she made biology just really interesting, and she made us curious. So again, I suppose it was her passion for her subject and for us. That was, yeah.
Anyone not been transformed by a great teacher here? Anyone? Okay, yeah.
No, so I've had wonderful teachers, but I struggled with dyslexia badly in school. And my father, kind of similar to me, many years before I did. And so we had similar experiences where there was no patience. I ended up getting expelled from schools because of kind of how things ended up shaking out. Because students, sometimes, especially myself, you might withdraw, or you become the class clown as a way to hide it. And so we have these own kind of defense mechanisms to kind of protect ourselves against certain things, which sometimes makes it really tricky for teachers. So.
And please have a round of applause. Don't you feel better for just expressing yourself there? Yeah, absolutely. And one of the very best ways that AI can help is to help those who are finding it difficult in an ordinary class. Any of you seen the film I Swear? Is it called I Swear? What's it called, that film? I Swear. Anyone seen it? I mean, the way that the child with Tourette's was it was made famous at was it the Oscars or was it the BAFTAs? Was it Oscars? I mean, and whichever one it was made famous. See it. I mean, the way that young boy was humiliated and beaten and scorned by fellow pupils and teachers and the head, so the technology could be joyful, wonderful, utterly game-changing for so many people. We'll get those benefits if we ensure that we can leverage those benefits because we have checked down the downside. So, I mean, on that point, I'm just going to hand back to Chris. I just think just one final point about those teachers is it's important to let them know that what they did for us. Who here has let an amazing teacher know? And how did that make you feel when you told that teacher?
Well, I'm a teacher myself, and it really, because she saw me in the class.
Yeah, she made me feel valuable. So I felt, yeah. So she was an Italian literature teacher, and every time I was coming to the class, I was looking forward to it because everything it was teaching was very, very interesting. But at the same time, she was able to make me feel valuable. Like if she was asking me things, looking at me, and all, of course, the other children.
So the relationship is important. So in 10 years' time, we're going to have extraordinarily sophisticated AI teacher agents who will be able to emotionally empathize with each and every child. And, anything you say that AI can't do, you have to add the word yet. Let's hand it over to Chris.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anthony, for a fascinating introduction there, and thank you to our audience members as well. So I just want to continue the conversation a little bit now. I'll ask a few questions, and I think we'll then open up to the audience for follow-up questions after that. So obviously, I've read your book, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I'd like to explore some of the themes around the fourth education revolution and the promise of AI in education. You wrote, "Technology is neither good nor evil in itself. It has value only in as far as it allows us to enhance what it means to be human." So picking up very much on what you've already said. Here we are in 2026. Again, you were writing before ChatGPT landed about the promise and potential of AI, well before that. Every student now has access to these large language models in their pocket. You can talk to a chatbot, well, within reason. It depends how good the school's monitoring is, but you've got access to these things all the time. Are you seeing in your work with AI in education with Wellington, specific examples of the LLMs, the AI starting to realize this potential? Are there best practices that you've seen, or is it still something that's developing and a little bit organic?
Thank you, Chris, and you all heard that question. Look, I was just thinking about this here. Look at that wall. The college was built 16th century, right? 15, 17. And look how the new has been, the ultra-modern has been put on the basis of something that is centuries old. And I think that's what we have to do with AI. We have to use all that is best, all that's best about knowledge in our current systems, and use the AI to make it more accessible education for everybody, regardless of their geographic disadvantages or psychological difficulties of getting into school refusers, or educational needs, or linguistic, and so many young people in London schools and schools elsewhere for whom English is not the first language, who cannot access the knowledge. There's so many benefits. How do we use it? By building on, not destroying that wall. I mean, an idiot architect would have destroyed that wall. A modernist architect probably would have done. But this person has built on the best, and that's what we have to do. And look, Chris, we don't have the evidence. So people are saying, look, we can't yet introduce AI because we don't have the evidence about what works. Well, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to work together, and we cannot look to government to do this. We have to look to ourselves. That's why I wanted to talk to you today. My biggest message to all of you is it's on us. It's on you. It's on the people who care about civilization, education, humanity, that this is going to be resolved. It is not going to be resolvable by the United Nations. I don't even know if the United Nations still exists. I don't think that the President of the United States has heard of it or knows that it's actually in the middle of Manhattan. He certainly pays no respect to it. I don't think we can base it on transnational bodies or indeed national governments. I think that's what the AI and Education Charity is all about. It's about us, ourselves. It's about the profession. It's about those in universities, those in schools. It's about parents. It's about students themselves, working it out as we go along. And the test is always, is it deepening human intelligence? Is it deepening human agency, human skills, human curiosity? Is it deepening, is it challenging? I mean, all those people who gave examples of the teachers, they made it difficult, and they allowed us to see the truth. What is the biggest danger of AI? If, right, I'm going to quote one academic only, Sylvie Delacroix, used to be at Cambridge, working with Neil Lawrence, now down at KCL, said we have 2 years to save learning because the agents come in and give the answer. The best teachers held us back. They gave us the aha moments. They did not rush in. They made it difficult. Life is at its most worthwhile when it is most difficult, when we set challenges, when we read those long and those difficult books, when we go for those, solve the difficult problems. That's exciting. That's when we feel human. And yeah, so are we seeing evidence? Very patchy, and certainly if we wait till we can be sure of the evidence. I mean, look, education research evidence is really weak. Compare education research intelligence to medical research. It's on a much surer footing. There's very little that we know that all those education departments that have been in existence for 50, 100 years can tell us about some things. But it's a much more subjective, insecure knowledge. And that's why I think we have to rely on the instincts of people asking the question, is it deepening human flourishing, human intelligence? And I'll tell you when we get around to it about the OECD and the work we're doing with OECD to totally transform the model of education. Who here is in universities? Hands up. And everything that comes through to university, right? Goes back to your next question.
Great, thank you. You spoke just now about the problem of an exam results-driven culture, and we hope that AI has the potential to shift that, maybe. How might that work? How can AI help people move beyond just measuring everything by results, given, as you observed, that's kind of the central message coming to us from government?
So in the traditional model, young people think that their education is over when they are, when they're 16, 18, or whenever they leave school or university, if they were lucky enough, and many in the world are not lucky enough to go to a school or indeed to a university. It is something that is lifelong. It generates that lifelong curiosity. It draws out for the rest of your life. It leads out the intelligences that lie within us. And it's not just focused on cognitive intelligence. As Howard Gardner, sorry, I broke my rule about not quoting academics, from Harvard says, and I'm sure you can complete this, don't ask how intelligent a child is, ask rather, okay, I'm going to ask again. He said, don't ask how intelligent a child is, because that very framing is you're putting it into the University of Breslau 1912 development of IQ as the sole way of evaluating human intelligence. I'm not intelligent. I can't do this. I can't do it. He said, don't ask how intelligent a child is. Ask rather, how is a child intelligent? Every child is intelligent in different ways. And the mean system that we have at the moment with this human capital model, which OECD has, homes in just on that. So how could it do that? Well, it could develop the fact that, how fantastic I met someone on the train on the way down who was, thought he was, he was 89, and he was absolutely buzzing with curiosity for everything. I mean, he was just extraordinary to be with and wanting to ask questions. He actually thought that he'd seen me in a Carry On film, which, by the way, if you are not British, can I just say, if you're Italian or anything else, that's not a compliment, by the way. But how do we have that? Why is it some people narrow down? How do we, in our own lives, and AI can do that? I mean, there's so many kids in class, 20 kids, 30 kids, 50 kids, 80 kids in some classes in the world. You can't have the one teacher's attention, but you can then, you're going like this, you want to ask the question, and then sometimes the teacher doesn't know. You can then ask it. It's so exciting I mean, I love putting questions into chat and finding out. I mean, I was useless at science at school. Actually, that was a silly thing to say. I was told I was useless, but actually I really liked science, and I didn't do it for A-level because I was told I was no good at it. And but you know, I mean, I'm asking all sorts of questions. And it gives you personalized discussions and feedback. I mean, it enriches that sense of education not being something that stops when you burn your files, when you leave whatever formal education you leave, but it's something that is then, and not just for your own subject, but for every subject. Just having that deep passion, love, curiosity to learn for life.
Thank you. Another idea that came up in your opening remarks was about the coming of increasingly powerful and intelligent AI systems, AI, artificial superintelligence. What can we teach that's going to be uniquely, irreducibly, and crucially human as this becomes more of a reality in the coming years? What's that core of education?
So can I just mention the OECD here? Who is familiar with the OECD? Hands up if you're familiar. Heard of OECD? Right, okay, so most of you have. So just very quickly, founded after the war, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development has a big education arm run by somebody called Andreas Schleicher, and who's a really interesting person. And they have tests called the PISA test, nothing to do with leaning towers, but they're the program of international student assessment, I think, unless I got that wrong, PISA. And they test schools around the world in three things: in literacy, numeracy, scientific knowledge, and every school, every minister around the world is desperate that they can show their own parliaments or own accountability bodies that their schools are improving on these PISA tests. And what it's done is it hasn't opened out education; it's narrowed education down to the passing of those. And there's such a big difference, isn't there, Chris, between you know, being a good physicist and being good at physics A-level. I mean, it's probably much more of a correlation at university, you know, doing really well in finals with being a good physicist. But to be honest, probably not an advantage at GCSE to be a good physicist. You just got to know how to jump the hoops of physics A-level, and same would be true of other subjects. So it's developing that lifelong curiosity. It is this is what we're doing. So the pivot is about the human capital models, so developed in America during and after the war, where education globally is about, measured by these PISA tests, is about giving everyone a place in the economic system. And there's nothing wrong with that. If we don't have thriving economies, there'll be no money for doing the things we need to do. But it's not enough. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. So there's been this pivot to what's called, and you look it up on the OECD website, the human flourishing framework. Human flourishing framework. And AI has given it great urgency now. It was worked up with the 7 top education performing countries in the world on these PISA tests, and that includes Germany, Finland, Australia, British Columbia, obviously not a country or state, the UK, Estonia, Australia. And the person who developed it, called Michael Stevenson, is now working with me at a place called Wellington, and we're rolling it out. We're working it out and rolling it out amongst state schools so that we can put the 5 competencies at the heart. One is an ethical competency. I mean, you can be good at something, but I mean, good in the sense of being proficient, but not have that goodness. So Ubuntu is one of the key inspirations there. And Ubuntu says, you can all finish this phrase about it. Everyone knows this Ubuntu phrase, it takes. Let's try that one again. It takes. Isn't that uplifting? I mean, even just hearing those words, isn't that uplifting? And how many children don't have that village? This one is also Ubuntu. I am, I am. I'm not because, like so many young people, I did really well at A-level, or I got into Oxford or Milan or wherever, but I am because we are. I am because we are. And it is, and we know this, we know that we are at our happiest when we're in connection with other people. And that was the point about the hugging exercise at the beginning. And no, I'm not going to do it. But because you don't have to do that. I mean, it's that connect. I am because we are. So it, first of all, is ethical competence. Second is decision-making and adaptive problem solving. Adaptive. And all of this, by the way, is built on the best of the current model, but the current model is essentially passive. Essentially, it's passive. Adaptive problem solving. So, and that's the second. The third one is the competency about learning to act in the world, agency. Now, some people say there's no such thing as free will. It's all deterministically decided. And of course, if you believe that, then it's true for you. But actually, it is not true for human beings. The human residual, which is the key question I ask in that book, what is the human residual? What is the thing that only we can do? Agency. So third competency is around human agency. Fourth is around understanding the world. And understanding the world not just in a siloed way, but if you are a physicist or a chemist, understanding the relationship between that and every other subject. And learning how knowledge translates into understanding and translates into wisdom. Information, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And how wonderful it is to be around people who are wise. And the fifth one is appreciating the world. So here we are in one of the most beautiful cities, university cities in the world, at a time in which nature is arguably at its most generous and vibrant and pulsating and exciting, and to learn how to appreciate and to see beauty, human beauty, natural beauty, in and around life. So those are the 5 competencies, and you, by implanting those in every aspect of a child, and that includes coaching. It includes, the best teachers did not tell you, well, in my study, I can't tell about your own experience, but often they're not telling you the answer, they're allowing you to work it out. And then it's your knowledge, it's not the teacher's knowledge. And that's a worry about AI, coming back to Sylvie Delacroix's point. How can the AI help us to be the learners ourselves? So those are the 5 competencies: ethical competence, adaptive problem solving, acting in the world, understanding the world, and appreciating the world. So those are the ways, and it's all there on the Human Flourishing framework on the OECD website. And we'd love for you to be part of it and get in touch with us. And it will mean that young people will come up to university, I think, psychologically in a much better state, and much clearer idea of who they are and how they relate to other people. The rise in mental health problems amongst young people is so unnecessary to be at the level that it is, and a lot of it is down to the education system and the atomization of the education system.